Hello, friends. This is Pete Birkeland. Today we'll be reading from the book of Ezekiel, starting in chapter 1. Now, in the 30th year of the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, I was among the captives by the river Chebar, and the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. In the 5th of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, Yahweh's word came to Ezekiel, the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and Yahweh's hand was there on him. I looked, and behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, a great cloud with flashing lightning and brightness around it, and out of the middle of it, as it were glowing metal, out of the middle of the fire. Out of the center came the likeness of 4 living creatures. This was their appearance. They had a likeness of a man. Everyone had 4 faces. Each one of them had 4 wings. Their feet were straight feet. The soles of their feet were like the soles of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. They had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides. The 4 of them had their faces and their wings like this. Their wings were joined to one another. They didn't turn when they went. Each one went straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they had the face of a man. 4 of them had the face of a lion on the right side. 4 of them had the face of an ox on the left side. The 4 of them also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. Their wings were spread out above. The 2 wings of each touched another. The 2 covered their bodies. Each one went straight forward. Where the Spirit was to go, they went. They didn't turn when they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, their appearance with torches. The fire went up and down among the living creatures. The fire was bright, and the lightning went out of the fire. The living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Now as I saw the living creatures, behold, there was one wheel on the earth beside it, the living creatures for each of the 4 faces of it. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like a barrel. 4 of them had one likeness. Their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel within a wheel. When they went in their 4 directions. They didn't turn when they went. As for their rims, they were high and dreadful, and the 4 of them had their rims full of eyes all around. When the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. When the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went. The Spirit was there. The wheels were lifted up beside them, for the Spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. When those went, these went. When those stood, these stood. When those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up beside them, for the Spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Over the head of the living creature there was the likeness of an expanse, an awesome crystal to look at, stretched out over the heads above. Under the expanse their wings were straight, one toward the other. Each one had 2 which covered on this side, and each one had 2 which covered their bodies on that side. When they went, I heard the noise of their wings like a noise of a great waters, and the voice of the Almighty, a noise of a tumult like the noise of an army. When they stood, they let down their wings. There was a voice above the expanse that was over their heads. When they stood, they let down their wings. Above the expanse that was over their heads, there was a likeness of a throne, as the appearance of sapphire stone. On the likeness of the throne was a likeness of the appearance of a man on it above. I saw it as it were glowing metal, as the appearance of fire within it all around. From the appearance of his waist and upward, and from the appearance of his waist and downward, I saw as it were the appearance of fire. And there was brightness around him, and the appearance of the rainbow that is in the cloud in the day of rain. So was the appearance of the brightness all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of Yahweh's glory. When I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard a voice of one that spoke. He said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet, and I will speak with you. The Spirit entered into me when he spoke to me, set me on my feet, and I heard him who spoke to me. He said to me, Son of man, I send you to the children of Israel, to a nation of rebels who has rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me even to this very day. Their children are impudent and stiff-hearted. I am sending you to them, and you shall tell them, this is what the Lord Yahweh says. They, whether they will hear or whether they will refuse, for they are a rebellious house, yet they will know that there has been a prophet among them. You, son of man, don't be afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words, though briars and thorns are with you, and you dwell among scorpions. Don't be afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they are a rebellious house. You shall speak my words to them, whether they will hear or whether they will refuse, for they are the most rebellious. But you, son of man, hear what I tell you. Don't be rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat that which I give you. When I looked, behold, a hand was stretched out to me, and behold, a scroll of a book was in it. He spread it out before me. It was written within and without, and lamentations, mourning, and woe were written in it. Chapter 3. He said to me, Son of man, eat what you find. Eat this scroll and go speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat the scroll. He said to me, Son of man, eat this scroll that I give you, and fill your belly and your bowels with it. Then I ate it. It was as sweet as honey in my mouth. He said to me, Son of man, go to the house of Israel and speak my words to them. For you are not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many peoples of a strange speech and of a hard language whose words you can't understand. Surely if I sent you to them, they would listen to you. But the house of Israel will not listen to you, for they will not listen to me. For all the house of Israel are obstinate and hard-hearted. Behold, I have made your face hard against their faces, and your forehead hard against their foreheads. I have made your forehead as a diamond, harder than flint. Don't be afraid of them, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they are a rebellious house. Moreover, he said to me, Son of man, in your heart, hear with all your ears all my words that I speak to you. Go to them of the captivity, to the children, to your people, and speak to them and tell them, this is what the Lord Yahweh says, whether they will hear or whether they will refuse. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a voice of a great rushing, saying, Blessed be Yahweh's glory from this place. And I heard the noise of the wings of the living creatures as they touched one another, and the noise of the wheels beside them, even the noise of a great rushing. So the Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness, in the heat of my spirit, and Yahweh's hand was strong on me. Then I came to them in the captivity at Tel Aviv, who lived by the river Shebar, and to where they lived, and I sat there overwhelmed among them 7 days. At the end of 7 days, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Son of man, I have made you a watchman to the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word from my mouth, and warn them from me. When I tell the wicked, you will surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked ways to save his life, that wicked man will die in his iniquity, but I will require his blood at your hand. Yet if you warn the wicked, and he doesn't turn from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, you will die in his iniquity, but you have delivered your soul. Again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness and commits iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he will die, because you have not given him warning. He will die in his sin, and his righteous deeds which he has done will not be remembered, but I will require his blood at your hand. Nevertheless, if you warn the righteous man that the righteous not sin, and he does not sin, he will surely live, because he took warning, and you have delivered your soul. Yahweh's hand was there on me, and he said to me, Arise, go out into the plain, and I will talk with you there. Then I arose and went out into the plain, and behold, Yahweh's glory stood there like the glory which I saw by the river Shebar. And then I fell on my face. Then the Spirit entered into me and set me on my feet. He spoke with me and said to me, "Go, shut yourself inside your house. But you, son of man, behold, they will put ropes on you and will bind you with them, and you will not go out among them. And I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you will be mute and will not be able to correct them, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I will open your mouth, and you shall tell them. This is what the Lord Yahweh says. He who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house." Chapter 4. You also, son of man, take a title and lay it before yourself, and portray it on the city, even Jerusalem. Lay siege against it, and build forts against it, and cast it up a mound against it. Also set camps against it, and plant battering rams against it all around. Take for yourself an iron pan, and set it for a wall of iron between you and the city. Then set your face toward it. It will be besieged, and you shall lay siege against it. This shall be a sign to the house of Israel. Moreover, lie on your left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel on it. According to the number of days that you shall lie on it, you shall bear their iniquity. For I have appointed the years of the iniquity to be the number of days, even 390 days. So you shall bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. Again, when you have accomplished these, you shall lie on your right side, and shall bear the iniquity of the house of Judah. I have appointed 40 days, each day for a year to you. You shall set your face towards the siege of Jerusalem with your arm uncovered, and you shall prophesy against it. Behold, I put ropes on you, and you shall not turn yourself from one side to the other until you have accomplished the days of your siege. Take for yourself also wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt, and put them in one vessel. Make bread of it, according to the number of days that you will lie on your side. Even 390 days you shall eat of it. Your food, which you shall eat, shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time you shall eat it. You shall drink water by measure, the sixth part of a hin. From time to time you shall drink. You shall eat it as barley cakes. You shall bake it in their sight with dung that comes out of a man. Yahweh said, "Even thus the children of Israel eat their bread unclean among the nations where I will drive them." Then I said, "Ah, Lord Yahweh, behold, my soul has not been polluted. For from my youth, even up until now, I have not eaten of that which dies of itself, or is torn of animals. No abominable meat has come into my mouth." Then he said to me, "Behold, I have given you cow dung for man's dung, and you shall prepare your bread on it." Moreover, he said to me, "Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem. They will eat bread by weight and with fearfulness. They will drink water by measure and in dismay, that they may lack bread and water and be dismayed one with another and pine away in their iniquity."
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where we are on a mission to get 1 million people to read the Word of God. Don't you want to see a Bible revival, my friend? My name is Summer Day, and with me in the studio is Peter Birkeland. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Summer. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so good that sometimes I feel like it's not fair to everybody else. I get to sit here and hang out with you.
Well, I get to sit and hang out with you.
Hey, that's true.
And
True.
And I think I'm getting the better end of that deal.
You're so sweet. You're so
Thank you.
sweet. Tell the world watching who you are and where you're from.
My name's Peter Birkeland. I am from the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Born and raised in the state. Spent a few years in Texas in college. I work as an executive for a data security company, as well as work on building my faith and building my life with Christ.
And so what made a man like you say yes to this project?
Well, you asked, and who can say no to such a day?
Okay, hold on. I have asked that question to a lot of people now, and you just won. You just won. I think that's the best answer I've heard from anyone. What made you say yes? Because you asked, and no one says no to summer day.
Part of it is as I walk through my faith and how it's changed in the last few years, and going from a kind of a covert faith that I know to more of an overt faith, and saying, okay, I can step out there. I can see people, that are talking about their faith more openly and talking about it, and not just being someone that's saying, okay, I do this privately, I do this in a small group. And this is one of the steps I wanted to take to make that next leap into being more overt.
Amen. I love it. And you just finished recording your readings. What was that like in the studio?
It's fun because I had readings. I had one of the readings from Job, so you're kind of almost like reading a script or a play, and as Job is going through and asking why God is challenging him and then his friends. So you get to kind of act a little bit and bring some energy that way. And then reading Ezekiel and reading Judges, more reading about how the tribes of the Israelites were going through and trying to form their nation and trying to follow God and failing, but still God is still there for them. Yeah. He's still says, I'm still your God and you are my people, no matter how stiff-necked and hard-hearted you become.
Ain't that true?
Yeah.
You mentioned Job, and I just have to say, so I had a love-hate relationship with that book. The first couple times I read the Bible, I was like, no, I'm in Job now. And then my best friend sat down, she unpacked Job on a Zoom call, and I realized I was kind of missing all the nuggets. Is that one of the books that you've enjoyed?
It's a hard one for me to get my hands around too, because as you go through and read it, it's not a book where you can just say, oh, I'm going to power through Job in a weekend. You need to spend days in it and reread it and then look at other source material and say, what is happening here? And I think one of the things you learn about Job, and in your faith is saying, okay, what is God really doing here to him? Why did God let the devil, in essence, use Job as an example?
Yeah.
And as we go through our faith, and especially from the Christ side of our faith, that's not how we learn and how we've been taught how Christ operates. But all of a sudden you read Job and you're like, why did he do that to them? Mm-hmm. And what is the reason that book's included in the Bible?
Yeah. I have high respect now for Job as well as Revelation. Revelation was another one. I didn't like it until I decided to sit down. I read it all in one setting, and I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I'm highlighting and writing all the notes. So I've changed my tune now for Job and Revelation. Let's talk a little bit about why do you feel it's important for people to read the Word of God for themselves?
Well, it's how we really bring God into our lives is through the Word. The Word is what has been with us for the millennia, and how God wants us to live our lives. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that's happened, I've read the Bible cover to cover 2 or 3 times, and then I do listen to a podcast daily. But one of the things I'm starting to get now in my 4th or 5th time through it is starting to all of a sudden understand how it relates, and how incorporating the stories as we read in the Old Testament, as we've started the readings, and into the New Testament of saying, okay, now I know how to bring that into my life. And you can't do that unless you really immerse yourself in the Word. Take your time, not just push play while you're on the treadmill and saying, I'm reading the Bible, but really delve into, okay, what's going on here? What's being told? What is God trying to get across to me?
Yeah, amen. I think, I've never thought this before, but thinking right now, if you're just only listening to the audio, or you're just only listening to the podcast, and you never actually have the Word in your hand, you're missing that way through the eyes of the way that the Lord, maybe wanted you to digest it. Yeah.
Or even highlighting, writing notes, dog-earing pages, saying, oh, okay, and then when I can refer back to it, okay, this is what I mean. And then I also, tend to sometimes bounce around to different versions, right? To say, okay, what does it mean here? What are they saying here? Mm-hmm. And just trying to get a little better understanding through the different translations.
Different translations. Do you have a favorite?
I do the NIV. I do sometimes do the amplified versions in some of that. And then every so often you jump into the King James just so you can get your dots.
You jump into the King James. I read Joyce Meyers has a good amplified. I read hers one of the years that I read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like hers. I've never felt the draw or the call to read the whole King James.
No, I think it's just hard, just in the way we process the language and the way we've learned to read and how we read, in our daily lives. It does make it harder to read the King James version.
Yeah. If only we were all so eloquent and divine as the King James in our regular life. So tell me a little bit more about you and your sort of journey of faith, your journey with God. Were you born and raised in the church?
I was. I grew up in a small town, about 800 people in northern Minnesota. Went to church religiously.
800 is a small town.
Yeah, it was. In the summers, it was a summer place.
Was it a Morristown? Is that?
It was a one stoplight town.
A one stoplight town, okay.
So we did have a stoplight, and that. But in the summer, it was a tourist area. In the summer, you'd get thousands of people there. So it was seasonal, but it was still small. I grew up there in the church. Thinking about, okay, what was my faith like growing up? And a lot of what faith was don't do this. Don't go to hell. Don't violate the law of God. Don't do all of that. And it did have an impact on me. And and probably the biggest one is when I went to Disney World when I was 5, and went on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and he goes through hell.
Yeah,
and I came out, and I remember I was screaming.
Well, we have to share for people who maybe never been on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Maybe they've never been to Disneyland.
Right.
It's kind of all fun, and it's laughter and ha ha ha, and he's driving the car, and everything's good. And then you turn the corner this way, and it almost feels like I just went down the wrong corner.
Right, and I don't remember it, and I remember coming out.
Suddenly, Mr. Toad is in hell.
Yes, and I came out, and since I was 5 years old, 6 years old.
Okay, we're going to pause you right there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what that is right after we come back. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
All right.
So we'll go right back. Peter Birkeland, and you're telling us about how you went on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which is happy and go lucky, and then suddenly, and then Mr. Toad goes to hell, and it's actually pretty crazy. And then the ride kind of ends. It ends pretty quick after that.
Yeah, and you're sent right out, and you come out, and I remember,
Oh, I have to tell you this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
We used to play jokes on people. I'm just remembering this now.
Okay.
Our favorite thing was when we had Fred, because I lived in California. I lived 45 minutes from Disneyland. I went to Disneyland at least probably 25, 50 times before I graduated college. We started telling people that we went to heaven. We would start telling people, which room did you go to? We were in heaven, and then this is what happens, and they sing this song. And people were like, oh, I went to hell. We're like, oh, do you want to write it again? Let's see which way you go. And we would always play jokes with new people and tell them that we went to heaven. Oh, my gosh, we were wicked. We were wicked children. That's what we used to do to people all the time. Is take them on Toad's Wild Ride, but tell them that our car went to heaven, which doesn't happen. Okay, so back to your story.
Okay, so now let me process that. I got to probably So as you came out of the ride, I remember, I was 5 years old, and I'm screaming, and there's people laughing, and that. But
they know.
Yeah, they know. Oh, look at you, scared him. But part of that, though, it goes back to kind of how you say, okay, how were you brought up in your faith? It's don't go to hell. Don't do these things. Don't. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that's changed in the last few years is no, it's not don't do these things. Go make disciples. Go be out there. Go proselytize about your faith. Go about things that have happened to you, and how God has shown up in your life. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's and but I had a wonderful church life. We had a great minister. He was a great guy. He had the largest gun collection of anyone I've known.
A minister with the largest gun collection.
Yeah, and and that would be part of our confirmation class every once in a while.
Oh, fun.
We'd go over and say, here, look at what I've got. Including he was a missionary in Africa, and he had a blowgun.
Wow.
So he pulled that out. But he was a wonderful man, and and did instill my faith in me. But it's just so much different and really, I think, better what I've come through the last few years.
Tell me more about that. So what shifted? You were raised in a church where there was a lot of don't do this, don't do that. You got scared out of your wits at 5 about not going to hell.
Right.
But when did your relationship and stuff and your views kind of change?
A little looking back on it, I think a lot of things in my life it's been there and I just haven't recognized it until I've started to pull things together. My father passed away when I was 20, and that was traumatic, and how I dealt with it was okay. It wasn't great. But going through that, then understanding that had to happen to get my faith to where it is today, and to go through these things, and to go through my bout with cancer.
Did you have a kind of a crisis of faith or anything?
No, not really.
Dad passed away?
No, it was more kind of, not a crisis of faith, more of like an indifference of just saying, yeah, I'm saved, I'm there. But being able to sit there and say, yeah, but I'm really not one of the saved people. I know I'm saved, but there's other people that are better than me. And you kind of just feel that, you're lesser in the eyes of God. And which is incorrect, right? We're all equal. We're all loved equally. Yeah. There's infinite love. But then I think as I went through my cancer,
you can't just say, I went through my cancer, la, 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 and breeze past that. We got to talk about that. What kind of cancer?
I had testicular cancer in 2000, and I got the diagnosis, and I was like, okay, I'm healed. I know I'm going to go through this. I didn't believe, for some reason, I was like, okay, I'm going to beat this. And we did. And, we went through the surgery, 30 days of radiation, and okay, you're done. It hadn't spread. It hadn't, it was caught early. And I was like, okay. And we go forward, and I believe that, God protected me and healed me. Now, I didn't maybe feel that way at the time. I maybe felt, I have a little more control over this. But now I look back and say, no, I do believe that I was protected. And then, probably the one that as we're going through this faith transformation, seeing then about 1.5 years ago when I had atrial fibrillation.
You had what?
Atrial fibrillation.
What is that? I don't know if I've ever even heard that word.
So I went in to get a procedure done, and you start with one nurse and you wind up with 5.
Oh, that's what you got. Yeah. When you start with 1 and end up with 5 is when you know something is probably not going as it should.
Right. And they said, well, are you okay? I said, yeah, why? I said, well, your resting heart rate's 150 beats a minute.
150.
Yeah. So
that is not good.
Yeah. So AFib, as it's called,
What's the normal resting rate?
60.
Normal is 60?
Yeah, 60.
Wow.
So my heart was in essence out of rhythm, and it was inefficiently beating, which results in stroke. So we went through all these procedures. I had to go through a couple procedures to get my heart shocked back into rhythm. And, and it was caught quick enough. It was caught within, the 2-3 months of it happening. So my heart muscle was damaged in that. But we started, Liz, my wife, and we got people praying for us, and we prayed and believed. And I told her, I said, I'll be healed. I'm healed. I know I am. And so we went through the procedure, and the doctor told me it'll be 6 months until you're healed. Your muscle, it'll get there, but it'll take 6 months. So I had 26 days later, I had a follow-up procedure to check my heart, and he comes in and says, your heart's 100% healed.
Whoa! In 26 days.
In 26 days, yeah.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.